Good afternoon to all. So, in a time when quality, accountability, and student centric learning defines academic excellence, outcome based education is no longer an optional, but it has become essential. Now, this quote is from NEP policy itself. So, once again, I say good afternoon to everyone, and I welcome all of you to this insightful session on COPO mapping and attainment level. To begin this training on a note of divinity and reflection, let us seek the blessings of the Almighty. I now invite Ms. Chinmay to lead us into a prayer.
ಮುಚ್ಚುಮರೆಯಿಲ್ಲದೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಮುಂದೆಲ್ಲವನು ಬಿಚ್ಚಿಡುವೆ ಓ ಗುರುವೇ ಅಂತರಾತ್ಮ ಮುಚ್ಚುಮರೆಯಿಲ್ಲದೆ ನಿನ್ನ ಮುಂದೆಲ್ಲವನು ಬಿಚ್ಚಿಡುವೆ ಓ ಗುರುವೇ ಅಂತರಾತ್ಮ ಪಾಪವಿದೆ ಪುಣ್ಯವಿದೆ ನರಕವಿದೆ ನಾಕವಿದೆ ಪಾಪವಿದೆ ಪುಣ್ಯವಿದೆ ನರಕವಿದೆ ನಾಕವಿದೆ ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸೋ ಗುರುವೇ ಅಂತರಾತ್ಮ ಮುಚ್ಚುಮರೆಯಿಲ್ಲದೆ
It's now time to invite the dignitaries on the dais to take their seats. I request everyone to kindly applaud as I invite Dr. Alvin Desa, Registrar, St. Aloysius College Autonomous, Dr. Ronald Nazrat, Registrar, St. Aloysius deemed to be University, our resource person of the day, Dr. Sriranga Bhatt, Dr. Aarti Shanbag, Controller of Examination, Dr. Vaishali Rai, NAC Coordinator. In the context of outcome based education, COPO mapping plays a vital role in aligning instructional strategies with clearly defined educational objectives. It serves as a bridge between the curriculum we deliver and the competencies we expect our students to acquire, thereby ensuring transparency, accountability, and continuous quality enhancement in higher education. Today's session is an important step towards strengthening our academic frameworks and assessment strategies. We are privileged to have with us the distinguished resource person who will guide us through the principles and practicalities of COPO mapping and attainment levels. To delve into the importance of COPO mapping, I now request Dr. Ronna Nazrat, Registrar, St. Aloysius deemed to be University, to kindly address the gathering.
Honorable Officiating Vice Chancellor of the University, Dr. Alvin Desa, the Resource Person of the Day, Dr. Srirang Bhatt, Controller of Examination, Dr. Aarti Shanbag, the Director of NAC in the College University, Dr. Vaishali Rai, Directors, Deans, and faculty members. We completed 1 year as a university. And when it was a transition from the autonomous state to the university, we did not have sufficient time with respect to preparation of our own curriculum is concerned. Maybe thinking about what exactly need to be the nature of the broader goal, that is the program outcome, the smaller goals of course outcome, and how exactly we can align ourselves into this course outcome and mapping them into curricular outcome in the program outcome. And it is a time after we complete 1 year and one duration of the academic council or the advisory committee of the department and the board of studies, one duration, that is next year when it is going to be over. We are ready for the implementation of this syllabus for the following academic year, wherein we get sufficient time to reflect on what exactly we want our student to be with respect to our classroom attainment is concerned. how exactly these attainments have to be mapped with the program, what exactly we are planning to, and how exactly the vision and mission of the institution are aligned with and we can contribute with respect to our program outcome to reflect on we are today here. And the department or this office of control of examination is having this wonderful training session, and we're very fortunate experienced faculty who is having the rich experience like guiding us sometime in the NAC process. Dr. Srirang Bhatt is here, and therefore we are very fortunate to have him interact with them and to map this CO and PO what exactly we have. We need to have a clarity with respect to what exactly we want in our classroom, whatever teach with the programs. It is something like the bricks which we lay in order to have a beautiful structure. Only when we have a clarity about what exactly the type of structure we need to have, we can have the bricks laid. And this bricks laying should be as the plan of the house or the structure to be. If you do not align properly, however beautiful the structure appears, it will be definitely mismatched and will not reach the outcome what exactly we want to. In this line, we need to have a proper planning of what type of CO we need to have. What is the program outcome? This has the accountability. Whenever students have joined to our programs, we have given them what do we want them at the end of their course, what type of attainment level they need to have end of the program, and therefore we need to achieve it. And it is a sort of accountability. Sometimes when we prepare the question papers, it is a time for us to reflect on and think we have given this type of course outcome. Are the questions which I am going to ask aligned with the outcome which we have defined? And therefore it is a whole process, is a process of reflection and process of learning. Therefore I invite you all for this type of whole exercise. Instead of seeing it as a just mapping, it is something like a mirror to reflect on, to learn from it, to make our pedagogy little better and have the programs well defined. Therefore, it will finally lead to a meaningful learning. That is what is the outcome-based education talks about. Therefore, I invite you all to undergo whole this process, a meaningful exercise, so that we can increase the value of the program what we have at our university. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the detailed insight. Now I request Dr. Vaishali Rai to introduce our distinguished resource person.
We are delighted to have with us a highly knowledgeable and accomplished professional to lead today's session on COPO mapping and attainment levels. Dr. Sri Ranga Bhatt, Professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at St. Joseph's Engineering College, Mangaluru, with 20 years of experience in academia. He holds a bachelor's and master's degree from MIT Manipal and a PhD in Lean Six Sigma from VTU Belagavi. He is a certified master black belt in Six Sigma from the Indian Statistical Institute, Bangalore, and certified international engineering educator from IGIP, Austria. Sir has published extensively in Scopus Index journals and guided several PhD scholars. He serves on the editorial board of reputed international journals like International Journal of Lean Six Sigma and Journal of Engineering Education Transformations, and has also received several accolades, including 2015 Highly Commended Paper Award from the International Journal of Lean Six Sigma Emerald Publishers UK, Outstanding Reviewers Award in 2022 and 2023 from the TQM Journal, 2023 Distinguished Researcher Award, 2024 Highest Research Impact Award of St. Joseph's Engineering College, and multiple Best Paper International Awards at the conferences. He is globally ranked number 8 as a leading contributor to the TQM Journal and ranked number 4 as an active researcher in Lean Six Sigma in the Indian context. His areas of interest include Quality 4.0, operational excellence, robust engineering, reliability engineering, and design of experiments. In addition, he has received a research grant of Rs 12 lakhs from the Indian Council of Social Science Research in the year 2023. His contributions to outcome-based education, curriculum designing, and quality in higher education makes him an ideal facilitator for today's workshop. Let us warmly welcome Dr. Sriranga Bhatt, sir. We are looking forward to an enriching session. I now request Dr. Alvin Desa, officiating Vice Chancellor of the University, to offer Dr. Sriranga Bhatt with a green welcome. Thank you, sir. And over to Dr. Sriranga Bhatt, sir.
Dear all, good afternoon to you. I hope I will be able to deliver what is being prepared. You're all stalwarts in your area, and we are not having a background of education as, pedagogy of different types of pedagogies. Like our shift is from engineering to teaching. Then we learned how to teach. Then we learned what is CO, what is PO, all from the perspective of accreditation at a certain point of time. So I'm just disseminating what I've learned over the period of time. And all the things which we are going to discuss here is debatable. It's not the final thought. It is over the period of time that what I have accumulated in the system, that's what I am going to put it forward. The first point, CO, PO, mapping, and attainment. As you are already aware, course outcome. Now, before getting into course outcome, we want to understand, is course outcome is same as that of the course objective or not? Because if you look at very closely in most of the university syllabus, in some places they will put it forward as a objective, and at the end sometimes we are going to observe outcomes. But in some university syllabus, they want to put it forward objectives, only outcome will be there. So larger question need to be answered is whether it is same. If it is same, what is the how it is same? If it is different, in what way it is different, we are going to discuss in later part. The second point is about program outcomes. So if the department or program is already having a program outcome, as the name itself indicates, it's program outcome. Say for example, in our case, mechanical engineering is a program. For that program outcome will be there. However, for the Master of Technology in mechanical engineering, we have to have a different program outcomes, because that is a different program as altogether. So in the similar manner, you might have a program outcome of or your own. If not, you can frame based on some consortium. Say for example, for us the consortium is Washington Accord, which basically National Board of Accreditation is going to refer. At the same time, if you go to the NAC, even they have put forth the same program outcomes which an NBA has accepted. So more or less, we can rely on the program outcomes that is being specified by the NAC as well as NBA. Going forward, attainment. Most of the time, we are having some confusion whether attainment is same as that of the marks that a student is going to get at the end of the examination. It's not the case. Attainment is a number which is going to specify at what level he has attained, or an entire program has attained its level. However, marks are only for the sake of putting it forward from the system perspective, where we are going to specify only some sort of assessment methodologies. For the attainment, you can add n number of methodologies, including the surveys, with which we are able to get the attainment. So that is the major difference between attainment as well as the marks which we are going to score. Because since we are there in the affiliated system, especially in autonomous institution, we have to have a specific score for the grade sheet. However, attainment, we are going to take most of the other methodologies or pedagogies into account, with which we are going to calculate the attainment. With this brief introduction, let me go further. Now, before starting any session, like even in our classroom, we can go for course outcome. So I have just briefly written a course outcome or session outcome, not to just have a clarity, but just to indicate that course outcome should have some sort of component. So we'll study those component in the later part. However, you can see one of the very critical component is nothing but type of learning. The second component is about context. The third component is about verb, like action word. So those are the three critical components generally we can expect in the course outcome which we are going to write. Now, of course, these are the program outcomes as per National Board of Accreditation, and is also been specified in the NAC criteria that they have recommended that you can adopt the program outcome that has been recommended by the NBA. Now, this is basically from the perspective of engineering. However, you can modify. For MCA, there is a separate program outcomes. For MBA, there are separate course outcome, including pharmacy. So now, let me put it forward, my thoughts from the perspective of engineering. My examples are also more or less from that perspective. Please pardon me. What is very important over here is the keywords. The first one is engineering knowledge. The second one is problem analysis. The third one is design and development of solution. The fourth one is conduct investigation. Now, as you have seen in my first slide, the outcome-based education more or less is going to revolve about three components: knowledge, skill, and attitude. So that's why more or less we are going to categorize these program outcome from that perspective. And it is understood that more or less in the examination, especially examination from the perspective of internal assessment or semester end examination, we can assess more or less knowledge component only. However, for the skill and attitude part cannot be assessed within the 1 hour or 2 hour test. So that's why those POs generally not applicable, debatable, once again that is debatable, but generally not applicable within the question paper as such. Now, larger question is how to attain those POs if suppose it has been mapped. So at the moment, no issues, which the 4 POs which I have mentioned here are basically knowledge components. Then we'll go forward, engineering tool usage. It is basically a skill component. Then the engineering and the world, which is also known as basically skill. Overlap will be there. However, categorically we cannot differentiate. Ethics, once again attitude part. Then individual and collaborative teamwork, which is once again we can specify it as a teamwork, attitude. Communication is there, more or less skill. Then project management, finance is there, knowledge. Lifelong learning is there, once again we can categorize that as attitude. Now earlier, this year NBA has revised the program outcome. Earlier it was 12 program outcomes. They have removed one program outcome called sustainability. Now what they expect is sustainability should be part of entire curriculum. So no need that there should be a separate program outcome for that. Now more or less accreditation is also getting into that side where sustainable development goals or sustainability components are involved. So that's why that particular program outcome has been removed, and we can see in most of the places a word called WK8, the last one. That is as per the Washington Accord. The Washington Accord has specified 9 graduate outcomes. So that's the terminology which they are using. Based on those 9 graduate outcomes, they have prepared 11 program outcomes. So if any department doesn't have a program outcome, or let us say you would like to modify it according to your requirement, probably you can refer those graduate attributes of Washington Accord, with which you can frame the program outcome of your department. Once again, it's not department, as I said, it is a program. Now you can see the whole assessment procedure should be from the perspective of 3 points, as I was mentioning: knowledge, skill, and attitude. And this is the division. Now, from this perspective, we have to have the mapping with the course outcome. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, more or less, we are able to assess the knowledge component in the examination, because he can apply, he can analyze to certain extent. In fact, he can design. We are going to get into the deeper aspects of it. uh, if you look at very carefully in the question paper, maximum we can go for PO1 and PO2 only, because design and develop a solution, conduct investigation is not going to happen in the question paper. He has to be there either in the laboratory and he has to conduct the experiment. That is what the essence of it. So if we are going for PO3 and PO4 for the sake of putting out as a PO, we can write, but practically it is not possible. Now that's what. Now we are here to discuss how to attain that particular knowledge component other than examination. At the same time, if you look at very closely, the PO5 to PO11, which are called the soft components of PO. The first four generally known as hard components. Those soft components, once again, cannot be assessed within the examination. Say, for example, if I put it across, PO11 has been mapped, how we are going to assess practically lifelong learning in the examination? So that is the question need to be asked. That's what I said earlier. All the thoughts which I am going to put forward, debatable. In some accreditation visit, we have experienced that the assessors are going to say that everything is being mapped, a particular CO can be mapped to every PO. But why you have not mapped to every PO? So that was the question. Now, fact of the matter is we can map to every PO. It's not a big issue or big deal at all. But larger question is how to assess it. Every component need to be assessed. Say, for example, I am going to map it to ethics. Now, how to assess it? That is the question. For the sake of mapping, I can tick which is that ethical component which you are going to assess. Or if I am going to say that if I have mapped to project management and finance, which is that project management concept which is there in the assessment, especially let us say in the internal test or in the semester examination, with which I can assess that. So that is very challenging to answer within the system, especially in the internal assessment or final examination. Now, going back to the first four POs. Now, they have not put forward these first four POs for the sake of putting it. If you look at very closely, one of the common word intentionally has been inserted in this particular PO is nothing but complex engineering problem. Probably in your case, you can tweak it as complex economic problems if it is specifically for a department of economics, something like that. So expectation is we need to have a discussion, or our deliberation should be from the perspective of complex engineering problem. So that is the common key word in the first four POs. So the next question is, if that is a complex engineering problem, how to attain that particular complex engineer, or how to give such complex engineering problem for the student and to get the assessment done. And we are aware of the fact that such complex engineering problem or complex problems, if we are going to pose in the internal assessment or in the final examination, we are going to face lots of challenges. Practically, it is not possible. So let us see how we can do it. Now, once again, if you look at very closely, those first four POs are mapped to Bloom's taxonomy level. And you are all proficient in Bloom's taxonomy level. We are taking tiny steps in that particular area, basically. But what is very interesting is, you can see first PO number 1 is apply. Second PO, that is analyze. Third PO, actually, it is conduct investigation, that is evaluate. So there is a slight exchange of POs with respect to Bloom's level over here, evaluate and create. So keeping all these things apart, what is very critical over here is first two POs, first two Bloom's levels are not matched to map to any of the POs intentionally. Because as per the norms of Washington Accord, what they are saying is we need to uh, train the students to from the level of 3 in the Bloom's level, that is apply onwards. Say for example, if I am going to ask a question, define Ohm's law, we cannot map it to any of the POs here, because define will come under understand or remember in the Bloom's level. So bottom line here is, first two Bloom's levels are prohibited. If any word is going to appear in the internal assessment or in the final examination, say for example, define, it is understood that it is there in the PO, no, it is there in the level 1 or level 2 of Bloom's level, and which cannot be mapped to any of the POs, because POs are going to start from apply onwards. So that's why we have to be very careful. Of course, once again, this is a big challenge for us, all of us, practically. If we are not going to ask such questions, how the students are going to score? So once again, debatable one, but I'm just putting it forward, the essence of outcome-based education here. So in the sense, at the end of the day, in the question paper, our POs are going to start from PO1, which is nothing but apply, analyze, conduct investigation, and create. So 4 levels. So going forward, so now how to address this complex engineering problem? Now we have a mandate from accreditation agency, that especially from the National Board of Accreditation, that the complex engineering problems are those problems which is not discussed in the classroom. In addition to that, they have given one more condition. Those are not the problem which is been specified at the end of the textbook. Unsolved problem also cannot be taken as a complex engineering problem. So their definition of complex engineering problem is little bit different. Means it should not be a part of the book, but concept should be same. Second is, the problem should not be framed completely. See, most of the time our students are complaining data is missing. Data should be missed. Then only it is a complex engineering problem. If all the data are given, nothing is there to conceptualize or to assume. So he has to assume, he or she should assume some data with which we can say our problem is a complex engineering problem. That is the whole essence of it. So I was mentioning, now since your institution is a tier 1 institution, we don't have any option. For the affiliated institutions, or even to certain extent autonomous also will come under tier 1 only. So what they are saying is, tier 2 institutions can plan to ask such questions in the assignment, because they don't have any option, because all the examinations, external examinations are managed by the affiliated university, so options are not there. However, if it is a tier 1 institution, you have to twist examination system so that you are able to ask such questions within your system. But once again, practically it is not feasible. So the best option is to give the assignment in such a way that all those things are open-ended one. The problems are unsolved. So if that is the case, then only we can say that it is a complex engineering problem. In the sense, what I'm putting forward is, if anybody has mapped to first 4 POs, they should be in the position to explain what is the complexity of that assessment methodology. For the complex, not assessment methodology, complexity in that particular question, so that they can claim that it is a complex engineering problem. That's why we have mapped to first 4 POs. It's not that I have asked a few questions in the internal assessment, which is apply or analyze level, which generally won't hold good when the accreditation agencies are going to come. I'm just giving one example of electronics and communication, a complex engineering problem. As I was mentioning, my examples are more or less from the engineering side, so please pardon me. Now, we will go to the last 2 segments. The problem which does not state what is the amplifier configuration, whether feedback should be applied or not, reasoning behind the choice, what would be the typical device characteristic you visualize. So all those things are not completely framed, in the sense those are missing in the question. So this is what they expect as a complex engineering problem. So judgment needed is this is a complex problem, that judgment we have to do. Then does the solution requires knowledge of engineering specialization, in the sense not only from the perspective of a parent bench, say for example mechanical. If a mechanical guy is applying some concept, then he has to take the essence from the chemistry, physics and mathematics. So those component, if it's included, then we are in the position to say it's a complex engineering problem. So now you have to think, what is the type of POs you have framed, whether those POs are going whether you are in a position to categorize those POs from the perspective of knowledge, skill and attitude. If so, what is the complexity of those POs and where it is being specified. And last part, how we are going to assess, or we are going to pose the question to attain those complex problems or complex situations in your system. So these are the thing which you need to dwell deeper into it, so that you will be having a bit more clarity on that. Now going forward, we'll just touch a little bit of Bloom's level. We have also learned over the period of time pedagogies, all these stuffs basically from the education background. But what was interesting for us when outcome-based education was implemented, that time we were choosy among the different levels of Bloom's. We'll say for example, I will choose one word, find, and I will say that we have attained the Bloom's level 1, remember. Or let us say, I will go for apply, and I will say that Bloom's level 3 is been attained, because I have chosen the word from the table which is been given. But if you look at very closely, and if you are going to critically analyze, there are multiple words which basically is going to appear in different levels. Say for example, one word I have specified, choose and choose. Both words, so like this particular word is there in 2 levels. Say for example, at the moment applying and creating. These are the things officially is taken from the Bloom's website. The point is, it is not about the word which we are going to choose. It's all about the type of activity that has been involved in that particular exercise. So based on the word which we are going to choose from the table, at the moment we can say that it is the Bloom's level 3 or level 4. But if I am going to say that choose an appropriate technique to solve this problem, it is basically apply a problem. If I am going to say choose the appropriate solution for this, then it might be in the Bloom's level 5 or 6. So my point is very simple. Over the period of time, we understood that it is not about choosing the words to create or frame or to articulate that particular CO. CO looks very pretty because we have chosen very nice words, but assessment will be different, and at the same time, we don't know which POs that will be getting attained. So you might be having a good number of mapping. I'll just put forward my thought. The course outcome, as we were discussing, should describe the 3 component, knowledge, skill or attitude. Any one component is also fine. Not necessary that all the 3 components must be there. It should be measurable. So this is the critical point. As I was mentioning, ethics, we are going to map, but how to ethics? How to measure it? So that is the larger question we have to contemplate. Then every course outcome has a set of COs, and probably I hope that you are having a good number of COs. The manageable one is 4 to 6, whereas the NBA is going to specify something around 6. But in most of the accreditation agencies, they won't specify as such. But it is better to have 4 to 6, not more than that. Because writing the COs, if you keep on writing, say for example, 8 to 9 or 10, things are very simple, but assessment will be challenging. For every CO, we have to have a critical component to assess it, and we have to make sure that those are the available, that is quantifiable data. Then course may have, that's what, 4 to 6 COs. So once again, this particular phrase I have taken from the NBA website, National Board of Accreditation, because this is a debatable point. So we don't have a choice. If I'm going to put forward my idea, it will be difficult. So they are going to specify that there is a difference between course objective and course outcome. And course objective can be written from the perspective of a faculty member or teacher. However, the course outcome should be from the perspective of a student. And they have given an example here. At the end of the course, student will understand. See, the word understand should be prohibited in our course outcome, because it is going to come in the level 1 or 2. The concept of modulation and demodulation in the communication system. However, we can write course outcome as, at the end of the course, the student will be able to choose a suitable modulation and demodulation technique for a given specification. So which is more or less, we can say in a layman language, the course outcomes are very specific, very fine-tuned, and which we are expecting from the student. Or else, still, if I'm going to tweak it further, we can say it's something looks like a question which you would like to pose either in the assignment or somewhere in the internal assessment, something like that, not exactly. Now, once again, when you're going to write the course outcome, it is always recommended to pick some of the words which are reflective in the program outcomes. Say, for example, the first program outcome is apply, then probably I can choose some of the words from those program outcomes so that it will be simple for me to explain from the perspective of OBE for the accreditation agency. So this is fine-tuning. If required, you can adopt. Now, coming to the whole picture of course outcome, as I was mentioning earlier, there are different schools of thoughts. We are just following this particular mode. So basically, we can say that there are 3 components. One is learning, other one is action, and the context. If you look at very closely here, by the end of the course, the student will be able to, there's a common phrase for all the course outcome. Then actual course outcome is going to start. Choose an appropriate design technique. So which is nothing but, choose is nothing but action word, which is nothing but verb. So one verb should be present in the course outcome. That is what it is expected. Then design an algorithmic solution, which is nothing but learning. For a given problem is nothing but context. This is the simplest one. You can elaborate based on your requirement. Nowadays, some of the universities are going forward with the examination reforms given by AICT, which is more complex. I won't personally recommend that particular thing, where they have divided program outcome into the performance indicators and competencies, which is something similar to ISO classification, which is troublesome if you are going to get into that phase. However, I'll strongly recommend to adopt the one which is very simple for you at the moment. So guidelines to discuss, the articulate the course outcomes. An action word should be there and should be from the perspective of student, not from the perspective of the faculty member. Knowledge, skill, or attitude, any one component must be there in this particular thing, which is nothing but learning. Then larger question and final question is just to contemplate, I am able to get the reliable data to do the assessment or not. The very, very important one. So many times we are going to map it to, say, for example, modern tool usage, which is nothing but PO number 5. Have we used any modern tools to solve a problem in our assessment procedure, or have I posed any such questions where he has been forced to use some modern tools, or else assessment is not going to happen. Only now some number is going to come, but we are not in the position to defend what type of modern tools students have been using. Then few more very important points. Generally, it is not possible to assess, understand. First of all, understand cannot be posed, or we cannot put it across in the course outcome, because understand more or less refers to the Bloom's level 1. Sorry, Bloom's level 2, remember and understand. Now, if I am going to write a course outcome from that perspective, then I cannot literally map it to any of the POs, because POs are going to start from Bloom's level 3. So we have to avoid these words: understand, know, learn, appreciate, very, completely, fully, totally, all those stuffs. Because generally it is not possible to measure it. At least understand we need to avoid as much as possible, because that is the first impression which will give to so many people that the understanding, there is a lack of understanding about the Bloom's level or outcome-based education. So then going forward, my suggestion, once again, as I was mentioning, there are so many people who is going to argue that you can map a particular CO to all the POs. But I am having a different thought that don't map it to all the POs, because if you are going to map it to all the POs, the next question, are you going to assess all the POs or not? Means, if the 11 POs are mapped to a particular CO, 11 assessment is required only for that particular CO. In the sense, 5 COs are there, 55 assessment tools are required, or 50, at least you should have been done 50 assessment to get the values, because somewhere ethics have been given, but ethics cannot be assessed in first PO, let us say. Use apply. In apply, how you are going to assess ethics? So sometimes some POs we cannot merge. So that is the question need to be taken into account. Sorry. Then mapping requires credible evidence. A course outcome needs to be mapped at least to 1 POs, generally, not more than 3 or 4. You will be having lots of trouble in the later part. Practical, I'm telling, putting it across from the perspective of practicality. Ticking is not a deal at all. Then a course outcome may map to at most 3. Once again, my thought, you can change it. No course outcome can exist without relating to a PO. That is also fine. On the other side, we can see if you are going to create a matrix, every PO should be mapped at least by 2 COs. Means every PO should be assessed twice minimum, or else robustness of assessment procedure will be lost. So we'll see later. So thumb rule we can adopt is at least every CO should be mapped to minimum 2 to 3 POs. Now, one more point from the perspective of examination. It is always recommended to map a particular CO to first 4 POs at least once. Then one more mapping can be done for the rest of the soft POs, means from PO number 5 to PO number 11. Now, why I am mentioning over here is, if you are not mapping a particular CO to any of the first 4 POs, you cannot ask such questions in the examination. Let us say it is a particular CO is mapped to PO 5 and PO 11, which is nothing but modern tool usage as well as the lifelong learning. But lifelong learning cannot be asked in the examination, internal assessment. Modern tool also cannot be asked in the examination, internal assessment. Then it is understood that we need to check the knowledge component, which is internal assessment as well as the external assessment basically are there to check the knowledge component of it. So it is highly recommended to map to the first 4 POs, so that we can ask such questions either in the internal assessment or at least in the complex engineering problem, which I was discussing earlier, in the assignment. So in that way, you can balance first 4 POs, 1 mapping, rest of the POs, 1 more mapping, so that we'll be having a scientific mapping and we will be able to get the attainment at the end of the day. So just I will put forward quickly. I'll check my time. So just I will go through it quickly, because I just want to bring in before getting into the mapping level, we want to understand how we can tweak a course outcome from the perspective of different types of Bloom's level as well as POs. Same word, or sorry, same sentence will be tweaked little bit so that we can increase the level of complexity as well as increase the PO attainment level. So you can see, remember, I have given one linear programming problem. At the end of the course, student will be able to understand and explain the importance of LPP. So I'll ask few questions, theoretical questions, with which remember. Basically, it is prohibited because we cannot ask any questions which is relating to remember and understand. Just for the sake of explaining, I have put it forward here. So you can see here, remember is going to come in the level 1. Same question. Instead of asking theory, I'll pose a problem and I'll ask him to solve it, which is more or less apply, more or less. Not specifically, we cannot say somebody can debate and I am not in the position. If somebody is going to argue with so much scientific reasons, it will be challenging to confront him. But if this is the case, I can map it to PO1 because apply is nothing but PO1, level is nothing but 3 in the Bloom's level. Now, I'll ask one more question here. Same problem, but I will ask him to solve by 2 different methodologies and I will ask him to compare. So he is going to put his thought, not only getting the solution, he has to compare, he has to interpret. So little bit of work is involved. So if I am going to pose such questions, I can claim, but practically it's not the case. I can claim and I can argue with the people that it is level 4, which is nothing but PO2, PO2 level 4. But larger question is, such questions can we pose in the internal assessment. If I am going to pose such question, I have to give minimum 20 marks out of 50 or 20 to 25 because that much of quantum of work is involved. So to what extent we will be able to sacrifice? There is the next question we need to contemplate and we have to answer. If not, then probably such questions posed once again in the assignment. Going forward, same. Concept is same, but what I will do here is, I will give a case study and I will ask him to solve. Then it is design. And this cannot be given in the, generally such case studies cannot be given. Of course, in MBA or in some department, they can give case studies, but not to that extent, where they can design something, because it will take lots of time, substantial time, I must say. So such questions, once again, we need to pose in the assignment. Now, same concept, I will ask him to solve using the MATLAB or some other open source. Then I will claim that now students are using the modern tool to solve the problem, which is nothing but PO5. You can see it has started from PO1, PO2, PO3, we have gone in PO5 now. I can further tweak it. Now multiple mappings are possible. I can map it to design, I can map it to analyze, modern tools, communication, self-study, everything can be mapped. As I was asking earlier, we are ready to do the assessment of this kind? Say for example, to design, I have to give a case study. To modern tools, I have to give for design, case study, modern tools, I have to ask him to solve using the MATLAB or some other software. Then only attainment is possible practically. Then I have to ask him to present in the classroom as a seminar, then communication skill can be assessed. Of course, there are different types of communication skill assessment. You are aware of it. Self-study, once again, there are 2 options. I can teach the MATLAB, or he is going to learn the MATLAB on his own. Then only it's self-study. If I'm going to teach the MATLAB, then it's not a self-study. So the point here is, a CO can be tweaked and can be mapped to all the POs, but at the end of the day, to what extent we are ready to assess each and every PO. So based on that, you can decide the level of mapping. So going forward, as you can see, such things can be possible. Assessment is nothing but mini project or open-ended questions. Those are the assessment tool which we can use to do the assessment of it, in the sense attainment of it. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, communication skill. Now, just putting it forward, communication skill can be assessed in different ways. Say, for example, I will give one research paper and I'll ask him to summarize. That is also one of the technical communication skill. Or else, I will give some NPTEL video and I'll ask him to summarize. The second communication skill. Or else I'll ask him to go to the consortium of that particular subject and to identify the key factors of it. Either report or seminar, whatever may be. Or else I'll ask him to write the abstract and conclusion of a research paper. That is also a type of communication skill. You can vary it depending upon the level of learning. Say, for example, in the first year, second year, third year, the students' maturity level will be more. Based on that, you can pose such questions. Then charting. I can have a good number of platforms, and I can ask him to debate on that particular topic. Whichever LMS platform you're using, if there is an option for the debate or discussion, you can use it. So that is also a type of assessment of communication skill, which is through the analytical, from the perspective of analytics. So of course, what is very important here is, we need to have a rubrics to assess the short POs, means PO5 onwards, PO5 to PO11. If we are going to assess, then it is strongly recommended to have the blue rubrics. This is taken from the website. Sorry, it is available in your. Just for the sake of putting it across, I have taken some snapshot here. The point is very simple. If you want to assess first four POs, no issue at all. You can assess either through internal assessment or through semester end examination or assignment or any activities. But basically, for the last few POs, which we are going to call it as short POs, assessed with the rubrics, and more or less they are activity based, more or less, not exactly, more or less. So this is how we have to plan what type of PO we are going to mapping, how we are going to do the assessment. Now this is one mapping table. In the mapping table, you can see 1, 2, 3. Now you can go for 5-point scale also, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, complexity will increase. So generally recommended is a 3-point scale, 1, 2, 3. Now first question is, how we can choose 1, 2 or 3? There are different methodologies. Qualitative methodologies or quantitative methodologies are there. One of the quantitative methodology is basically calculating total number of contact hours, and for first CO, if I am going to give more time out of 50 hours, then I can put it across that 3, because substantial time can be given. Then little bit more, you based on the ratio calculation, simple ratio calculation, 2 and 1. But the challenge here is, somebody can ask a question, outcome based education is beyond the classroom, it's not restricted to the classroom. If you are going to say that it is 50 hours, then how you are going to assess the activities like mini project, major project, which is going to take substantial time from the regular specific time. So in such cases, we cannot specifically go for quantitative technology, which is been actually notified by Directorate of Secondary Education. You can go and you can Google 2016 document, which was given basically for all the diploma colleges basically. But I don't know to what extent they have implemented. That's one of the quantitative methodology. However, qualitative methodology is based on our our understanding. Say for example, I am going to put more hours, or I am going to conduct more activities for first CO. Or else I can put in a very diplomatic language that if I am going to build the competency, highest level of competency, then it is 3 among the students. If I am going to create only awareness with respect to that particular CO, then it is number 1. So in that way, we can put from our perspective, which is 3, which is 2, and what is 1. But you need to have a rationale for the selection of 1 to 3. If the system is going to say that this is what the rationale you need to follow, that would be always better. So either you can go for quantitative methodology or else you can go for qualitative. My recommendation is basically you can go for the qualitative methodology, because outcome-based education goes beyond the classroom. So number of hours we cannot identify. So now you can see over here, this particular CO, first CO mapped to PO1 as well as PO9, minimum mapping. As I was mentioning, first 4 PO pick one, so that we can do the assessment in the question paper. Next one we can do through the activity, let us say PO. But the point, another point here is, let us say I'll write 2 here. Is that is right or wrong? The PO2 I'll write 2. If you look at very closely, in most of the mapping, in most of the places, it is there like that. In the sense, they will claim that we are going to assess, apply knowledge as well as solve problems. But practically, without going to the first standard, you cannot go to the second standard. So that is the case. Apply, without apply, he cannot go for analyze. If he is going to analyze, he is going to apply, confirm. To do the conduct investigation, he has to go apply, then he has to analyze, then only he can go for conduct investigation or evaluate, correct? So practically it's not right. Once again debatable, somebody can ask the question, but in the most of the places it is there. But if you look at very closely the Bloom's level, we cannot, because unless and otherwise he is going to apply, how he is going to analyze? Unless and otherwise it is a weak. So I don't know, it's purely my thought, sorry, because that is what my understanding basically. Then, in the similar manner, you can see every PO more or less mapped twice, every PO. Row wise also 2, column wise also minimum 2. In the sense, every CO, if the CO is there, if it is not been assessed, so it is not mapped to other only one PO, then existence is questionable. Why that particular CO is required? In the similar manner, column wise. Column wise, if the mappings are less, what happens? Robustness of assessment will come down. In the sense, practically, we have mapped only one CO. More or less assessment is also 2 or 3. Means a particular CO will be addressed in one question in the internal assessment, some quiz, some assignment, something. So robustness of that particular assessment of that particular PO will little bit come down. So once again, it's up to the system to decide how many mappings are required. Now coming to the attainment calculation. With this, we are getting into the attainment of it. So if there is any question, you can either ask me right now, or you can, shall we proceed, sir? This is the whole picture of the assessment. So we started from course outcome, just to summarize, and we learned that minimum 3 types of component must be there in the course outcome. Usually I will prefer 4 to 6 COs. Then COs can be mapped to any number of POs, but you have to contemplate how many mappings are required. And if I am going to map it, what is the level 1, 2, 3, how I am going to decide 1, 2, 3, and who has approved it. All those things are going to matter a lot when you are going to deploy it. Now coming to the last part of it, the program outcomes. Attainment of program outcomes as well as course outcomes. As I was mentioning earlier, don't get confusion between attainment as well as marks. Marks are required basically for the grade card. Attainment generally required for the accreditation agencies. Might be NAC or NB or ABET or anything. They are not interested to see the marks. So you can see here some of the components: internal assessment, assignment, and other assessment techniques, anything, different types of pedagogy, which is generally known as formative assessment. Then summative assessment will come into the picture. Together, we are able to get the CO attainment, which is known as, once again, in the CO attainment, direct attainment, indirect attainment is there. When I am going to put surveys along with the CO attainment, then I will be able to calculate the PO attainment. Now, once again, as I was mentioning here, if you are going for some software, things are inbuilt, and we are not aware which type of methodology they are going to follow. As per my understanding, around 2 to 3 methodologies are there at the moment for the CO attainment calculation. So I'll be discussing with you one type of methodology over here. Now, the accreditation agencies have given only one criteria. This is the final one. Attainment should be in terms of 1, 2, 3. Means it might revolve around the points, 1 point something, but will be in terms of values. And they will say there should be attainment levels. How you are going to fix, how you are going to calculate, all these things are secondary for them. What is very important is, based on the assessment, what is the improvement activity that have been taken place. Because every college is having its own type of assessment methodology, attainment methodology, in fact. It's not a deal. So coming to this point here, what is common here is 60% of the maximum marks. So there are two components here. The first sentence, let us go through the first sentence. Attainment level 1, 60% of the students are going to score more than or equal to 60% of the maximum marks. Now you are having an option to change either that first 60% or second part of it, where you can see one of the component has been kept constant throughout the level, 60%, just to make sure that our system is concentrating on the first class overall. So even you can reduce to 50%, the common factor 50%. Also you can reduce that first one 60% to 50%. That is left to us. But only thing, we have to have a rationale behind it, and it should be documented. Things gets over with that. It's quite simple. Level number, if we are going for level 5, then we can extend it further. Not a requirement here. Now, we were calculating earlier using the Excel sheet. We're not using any software. So I'm in the position to explain how the things are going to work. Based on the 60% of the maximum marks, which I was mentioning earlier, you can see the maximum marks here is nothing but 13, which is the first internal question, IA1. Let us say it is been mapped to CO1. You can divide the COs into TLO. TLO stands for topic level or outcomes. You can subdivide. That is left to you. Work is a little bit more if you are going for TLO. If you are going to take only CO, quite simple, things gets over quickly. So one internal assessment, let us say one question, a specific question in the question paper number 1 is from the perspective of CO1. So I'll skip these two. That is TLO part I want to explain. So now we have put an equation there, and 60% of the maximum marks is 7.8. Simple equation. So it will kill the percentage. The percentage has come out as 69.81. So now I will enter manually. You can automate also. Level 1, because it has crossed 60% of the maximum marks. In the same case type, you can see here 70%, it has come 70%. So I can put it as level number 2. So you can see in the internal assessment, I have mapped so many COs, but each and every question should be, each and every question's marks should be retrieved and transferred to an Excel sheet or software, however it might be. Then it will give automatically, or you have to do manually, what is the attainment level. All these things depends upon the type of level you have defined, 60% of the maximum mark or 50% of the maximum marks, because so happens that in the mathematics subject we have seen personally, attainment level is almost nearer to 0, because students are going to score good marks, but not everyone is going to score more than 60% of the maximum marks. So things looks very simple here, but in theoretical subject, you will be able to get something around 2 or a little bit more than that. But in the problematic subject, it is always on the lower side, which is less than 1. So the point here is, if you want to boost that value so that it's going to be, it looks very nice, then you can elevate, you can reduce the level 50%. Then even in the mathematics subject, the attainment level will be more than 1. But as I was mentioning, the assessors are always aware of this fact. They are not bothered about what is the value you are going to get at the end of the day. They want to see, after getting the value, what is the improvement methodology you have adopted in a particular curriculum or in the subject. So that is the whole intention of calculating attainment levels. Now, let us say this is for internal assessment 1. In the same way, I have to ask the question, and marks should be analyzed from the perspective of assignment. Even in the assignment, I am going to map to 1, 2, 3, 4, so on, and I am going to get the attainment. You can see here the attainment values over here. Procedure is same. Maximum marks are going to differ. Then I might be having different methodology. Why I am stressing more on the assignment is, this assignment is the only one component where you can ask the complex problems or activity can be conducted. So that's why more or less we can say that assignment is the inevitable part of it, our system. So now, other than that, you can ask quiz, 1-minute paper, seminar, mini project, major project, whatever you want, you can go forward. Once again, as I was mentioning, let us say you have conducted a group activity, but you don't want to put those marks in the assessment sheet, in the sense for the final marks. Fine. Because at assessment, that marks which will appear in the grade card will be different from the attainment. Let us say we have conducted a seminar, and after conducting the seminar, I have given a question, and I will use those questions assessment only for the attainment. Fine. Not necessary that it has to be plugged into the marks. It is up to the system once again to decide what is required. So let us say 1-minute paper. So in all the assessment, the criteria is same, 60% of the maximum marks. No difference over there. Only the equations are going to change here and there. It is a very simple calculation, you can proceed. Coming to the formative assessment. Now you can see here, TLO, the second column is TLO, first column is course outcomes. So I'll skip that TLO, we don't want to concentrate on that. So COs. So in the, let us say CO number 1 is been assessed twice in the first internal assessment 1, and there is a 1-minute paper even for that. So for each COs, I can identify what are the assessment component I have adopted. In fact, it should be a reverse engineering where you need to plan in advance what type of assessment you are going to do for each of the COs. Then coming back over here, maximum marks are there. This we can see 13 marks where the maximum marks in the previous sheet for the first CO, in the first internal assessment. Now together, if I am going to put together, it will come to around 28. Means CO1 was assessed for 28 marks through different types of tools and technique. Now among that, now I have to get the attainment level. Now if you remember properly, for 13 it was level 1 from the previous sheet. In the similar manner, I have to transfer all the values of previous sheet to here. So from 1-minute paper, whatever value I have got should be transferred over here. Then I will divide the total 28. So you can see total marks are nothing but 28. So now maximum marks divided by the total marks, which is nothing but weight. Weight is nothing but 0.46. So like that, I will get the weight for each and every question. Means I am asked a question for 28 marks, basically. But there are so many different tools I have used. Different tools have been used for different marks. So weightage will be more or less. So let us calculate the weightage for it. Now multiply the weightage with the corresponding attainment value with which you are going to get the total attainment. So it is a, like we are going to say generally, it is a weighted moving average methodology. So if you don't want to follow, you can follow some other methodology as well, depending upon requirement. So just we have divided, what we have done is very simple. We have identified how many tools we have used, what is the maximum marks. Since marks are going to vary, we have gone for weight, then weight normalized to get the final value, which is nothing but CO1 attainment is nothing but 1. In a similar manner, I have to do the CO attainment for each and every CO. I have to retrieve the values. If the things are automated, quickly you will be able to get, but or else you have to manually enter the values with which you will get the final assessment. So one part is over, CO attainment is over. Going forward, summative. The same procedure must be adopted even for summative, because you are aware in the final examination question paper, question number 1 is mapped put to CO1, let us say PO1. So I can retrieve the values. However, if it is an affiliated system, the university won't give generally the CO-wise marks. So in such cases, overall assessment we can do. So you can see 60, maximum is 60, because we have kept the criteria that 60% of the maximum marks every time. So that 60% will come into the picture every time. If you are going to change it to 50%, everything will change into 50 here. But since it is a university, if it is feasible and if things are possible, then you can retrieve the CO-wise marks, which is more or less recommended by the accreditation agencies. Then in the same way, you are going to calculate for every CO what is the outcome in the summative assessment. So now we need to club the formative, which is nothing but internal one, the summative, final one, and now you can give a ratio. Basically, they have specified that it should not be less than 80 and 20. In most of the places, in most of the universities, they are following 50-50. But they are also specifying that it should not be more than 50-50. Means external examination should be given more weightage compared to all the internal assessment, because internal assessment is a component. It is the only proctored examination is in the system. However, if it is a seminar or some activities, then presentation, then the assessment is once again questionable. So that's why they are going to say that 50-50 is more or less preferred, maximum weightage. But minimum also can be gone for 20 to 80. So let us say I have gone for here 80 and 20. 20% I have given to internal, 80% I have given to external, 50-50 also fine, with which I'll be able to get the total attainment. So this is the total attainment of course outcome. Now going forward, so direct attainment. This is direct attainment means no surveys are involved, straight away based on the rubrics or from the examination we have got the marks. From there I have calculated the attainment. Indirect assessment attainment is generally based on the survey. Now there are different types of surveys are possible. One is, let us say, subject wise survey, course end survey, which we are going to say for a specific subject. Then semester end survey. Then alumni survey is also possible, but very challenging to include over here. So n number of surveys, including say for example, today there is a session. After the session, if I am going to conduct the examination for all the students, then that also can be added. Not examination. If I am going for the feedback, that feedback also can be considered as a survey, provided substantial number of students in that particular class are going to attend. Say for example, minimum statistically, we are going to say that 70% of the students should participate in that particular seminar or webinar. So in that case, those feedback also can be considered over here. Now, I can ask every CO should have minimum one question. You can pose however you want, or else a particular CO can be divided into 2 questions and it can be retrieved, the values can be retrieved. So it's all about how you are going to pose the questions. Once again, the point here is 60% of the maximum marks. So it has come 70 So 70 attainment level 2. If I am going to split a particular CO into 2 questions, you can take the average. But common point here is every time 60% of the maximum marks. So with which I am going to quantify this survey, because at the end of the day, we need only values. So after that, you might be having a table. You need to put, say for example, this was my initial mapping, which is based on subjectivity. I thought that I will take my student to the level of 3, which was my thought, basically, means I will create competency in that particular CO. However, my attainment is 1.8. In the exact spot you are going to place value. I thought that I will take it to level 3, but actual attainment is 1.8 based on the values. So likewise, if you are going to map to too many things, that many assessment is required, basically that many times of calculations are required. Just imagine 5 COs are there, 11 POs are there, everything you are going to map. How many assessment tools are required, how many columns are required. If it is getting automated, not a big deal at all, but assessment you have to do on your own, right? So that is the challenge practically, to get the exact value for a particular thing. So going forward, now this table is the mapping table. This table is nothing but actual attainment table we have got. So which is nothing but direct attainment. This is indirect attainment. Means once again I will create one more table and I will put it across the values which I have got from the survey, not from the internal assessment or other assessment, indirect one. So there are 2 components, direct attainment and indirect attainment. Now going forward, now I will go for the table where I will specify at the top. You can see these are the previous table. For your reference, I have put it across here. The final values are here. See, say for example, 10 Mat 3.1 means it is a mathematics subject for 3rd semester, first subject. So values are nothing but, let us say, 1.96, and indirect value is nothing but 2. I'll keep it aside. This is what that attainment we have got for the POs. So where I am going to multiply. Yes. So once again, now this 1.96 you have got from here, 1.96. There are different methodologies. One is the best methodology is nothing but the taking average straight away. The second methodology is taking weightage and taking average, like weighted moving average. That is also possible. Then one more notion is there, which was earlier in the NBA website. Professor Sahasra Buddhe, who was the ex-president of NBA, he has put forward one thought. Say for example, in the communication skill, somewhere student has attained 1 and somewhere it has been attained 2. Mathematically 1 plus 2 divided by 2. That is the mathematics calculation. But in the other way, somewhere he has got 1 marks in communication. Later, he has improved his communication skill and he has got 2 marks. Not you want to take the average, or you want to take 2 marks highest, because he has attained that level. So mathematically things are different. If you put it across psychologically or some other aspect, things are different. So that is also possible. That is what I have taken here. So 1.8 to 1.96 and 1.8 was there. So one calculation I have just shown. So we have taken maximum because somewhere he has attained to that level. Why I want to reduce that particular level? So that is one of the thought. As I was saying earlier, you can take the average, very easy to defend, nobody will question. Weighted average also you can proceed, little bit of extra calculation, but this method little bit complicated because we need to convince the opponent. So it is up to you which type of methodology you would like to prefer. So going forward, so same way, I have taken the maximum, you can take the average, put it across in the final sheet. So just summarize. Direct attainment, indirect assessment, we have taken two types of survey basically, course end assessment, semester end assessment, two types of survey with which we have gone for the PO and PSO. And one more point which I have not mentioned over here is program specific outcome. Once again, it's specific to a program. BCom is a program, MCom is a program, different. So program specific outcome should be different. We cannot have a same program outcome for BCom, MCom or some other. So vision and mission can be same for the entire department. Program outcome will vary. So coming to the PSOs, now somewhere it's mentioned that you would like to specify your own outcomes which are not part of the first 11 or 11 POs, then that particular program can specify its own outcome, which is known as program specific outcome. There's one way of writing program specific outcome. If it won't fall under any of the 11 POs, write one more on your own, which is PSO. Or else, one more thought is, if your department is having a center of excellence, which is the unique selling proposition of your department or program, then write that one as a program specific outcome, because you are going to push all the students to get part in that particular thing. It might be research or something, whatever may be. So you might be training the students on a GATE examination, competitive examination or research. Then that can also be a program specific outcome, in the sense at the end of the day, wherever you are going to put more effort, you can specify as a unique selling proposition of your department, which is nothing but program specific outcome. This is one more thought. So likewise, different ways of articulating a program specific outcomes are there. You can prefer the one which is more suitable to you. So you can see direct attainment for a particular subject. So this is direct attainment for different subjects, sorry. Because at the end of the day, let us say in one semester there are 6 subjects. All the subject values are going to come. Now you want to take what is the total outcome of a particular PO from the perspective of all the 6 subjects. So that's why you need to list subject number 1, C101. This is the course number 1 in the first semester. This is second semester, second course. Simply I have written. So you can write however you want. But the point here is all the 4 year, 8 semesters, if it's there, 8 semesters subjects should come over here, and you are going to take the average, which is nothing but the total attainment of POs. Now, if you are having professional elective or open electives, not necessary that you should include over here, because there all the students won't participate. As I was mentioning, at least 70% of the students, if they're going to participate, statistically we can say that all the calculation more or less is having some inference. So even NBA won't prefer that, it won't mandate that the professional elective and open elective should be included. They expect only first year subjects, which is common for all, and the core subjects of the department should be listed, and total attainment should be calculated. So this is about PO attainment. Previously I was talking about CO attainment. So it is 2 different things. PO attainment is required usually to discuss all these matters in IQAC meeting or department development meeting, all those stuffs, whereas course outcomes are required to change the syllabus or improve the curriculum, all those stuff. So for that, course outcomes are required. In the same way, all the surveys, because that's why if you look back, I have kept direct attainment separate, indirect assessment, attainment separate. So those will be plugged in here into the indirect assessment. All the courses once again, indirect assessment, with which I will be able to get the total attainment of a PO from the perspective of all the subject through survey. Then I will proceed further. Different surveys you can proceed. Then I will go for the final assessment or final attainment of a PO. A single value will be available which can be used for the discussion in the, as I was mentioning, generally they expect that these values should be discussed in the IQAC meeting, so that a strategic level decision will be taken. Now, direct attainment is 2.6. In one of the indirect assessment course and survey, we got 3, and another indirect assessment we got 2. So I'll give 80% to the direct assessment and 20% for the surveys together. So with which I'll be getting the total attainment. Now I'm going to say that apply knowledge, total attainment in this particular course, let us say mechanical engineering, PO1 attainment is 2.58. Means to certain extent we have achieved, because maximum is 3. However, if you look at very closely, professional ethics, let us say, I just not put all the values. The assessment is very less, 0.1 or 0.5. In the sense, we need to put more effort to do the assessment of it. So in that way, you can take it forward, the type of improvement you are going to deploy based on the attainment level. So which is nothing but, once again here, it is not recommended to go beyond 80%. For this 20%, it is not recommended to go beyond this. Because surveys are always subjective matters. So that's why they will prefer that either you go for 10% or maximum 20%. However, for the proctored examination or other things, we need to give the maximum value. So like this, we are able to calculate the CO attainment as well as PO attainment. I have mentioned here 3 levels of attainment basically. You can also prefer 5 levels of assessment or attainment, but as I was mentioning earlier, things will be a little bit more complicated as you are going to increase the numbers. So with this, I'm going to end my talk. If you are having any doubt, you are free to ask.
The floor is now open for question and answer session. Faculty members, feel free to ask questions and clarify your doubts on COPO mapping and attainment levels.